Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Part 1. The two fathers who shaped a mindset that changed everything. There are two kinds of people in this world. People who wake up every morning and think about how to survive, and people who wake up thinking about how to become free. But what if the way you think about money was never really your choice? What if it was taught to you, not in a classroom, but at home? This is the story of a boy who grew up with two fathers. Two men, two minds, two completely different worlds. One was highly educated, a professor, a man who believed in hard work, stability, and following the rules. This was his biological father. The other was not his real father, but he became the most influential teacher of his life. A businessman, an investor, a man who never finished school, but built wealth, freedom, and independence. One was poor, not because he didn't earn money, but because he thought like someone who works for money. The other was rich, not because he chased money, but because he understood how money works. And between these two fathers, a child grew up confused, because both of them gave him advice. Both of them were intelligent. Both of them were confident. But they contradicted each other in every possible way. Brain the first lesson: stay in school, get a job, be safe. The poor dad believed in a simple formula. Study hard, get good grades, find a secure job, work for a company, retire after 40 years. He used to say, money is not everything. Job security is everything. He believed fear was dangerous, risk was bad, and financial stability came from obedience. So he worked harder and harder. But something strange happened. Even though he earned more over time, he never felt free. Bills increased, stress increased, responsibility increased, but freedom never came, because his income depended on one thing: working more hours. Briefcase, the second lesson: make money work for you. The rich dad saw the world differently. He said something shocking. The poor and middle class work for money. The rich make money work for them. He didn't chase salaries. He chased assets. Things that put money into his pocket even while he slept. Businesses, investments, systems. He believed something most people never hear. It's not how much money you earn. It's how much money you keep and how long it stays working for you. To him, a job was not security. It was dependence. Because if you stop working, your money stops too. And that, in his eyes, was the real risk. Balance scale, the clash of two worlds. The boy listened to both fathers. One told him, don't take risks. The other said, if you don't take risks, you will never be free. One said, work hard for money. The other said, make money work for you. One believed in safety. The other believed in freedom. And slowly, a question started forming in his mind. A question that would change his entire life. What is the real difference between being rich and being poor? Fire, the turning point. One day, the boy decided to test something. He didn't want advice anymore. He wanted experience. So he went to the rich dad and asked, how do I become rich? The rich dad didn't answer immediately. Instead, he gave him a job. Not a high-paying job. In fact, he was paid almost nothing. But something strange happened. He wasn't being trained to earn money. He was being trained to understand money. How it moves. How it flows. How it disappears. How it multiplies. He learned something most schools never teach. Lightbulb money is a language, and most people never learn to speak it. Chart decreasing, the hidden truth about most people. The rich dad explained something simple but brutal. Most people spend their entire lives working for money, but they never learn how money actually works. So they fall into a pattern. Earn, spend, borrow, repeat. And every time they get a raise, their lifestyle increases, not their freedom, because their habits grow faster than their wealth. Compass, the first shift in thinking. The boy started realizing something uncomfortable. It wasn't intelligence that separated rich and poor people. It wasn't luck. It wasn't education. It was mindset. Because two people can earn the same salary, but one becomes free and the other stays trapped. The difference is not income. The difference is direction. And then the rich dad asked a question that changed everything. If you lost all your money tomorrow, would you know how to get it back? The boy stayed silent. Because for the first time, he didn't know the answer. Backhand index pointing right. In part 2, we go deeper into why most people stay poor even with high income. The difference between assets and liabilities. The hidden trap of jobs and salaries. And the first real step toward financial freedom. Part 2, the trap most people never see. The boy stayed silent. Because the question didn't feel like a question anymore. It felt like a mirror. If you lost all your money tomorrow, would you know how to get it back? For most people, that question is uncomfortable. Not because it's complicated, but because the honest answer is often no. And that is where the Rayal story begins. Light bulb, the illusion of safety. The poor dad believed safety came from a job, a steady paycheck, a stable company, a predictable life. But the rich dad saw something different. He saw that safety is often an illusion, because nothing is truly stable in a world that changes every day. Companies collapse, economies shift, jobs disappear, and yet millions of people build their entire lives around something they cannot control. He said, the moment you depend on one source of income, you are no longer free. You are vulnerable. Money with wings. Why higher income doesn't solve the problem. The boy noticed something strange as he grew older. People who earned more money didn't necessarily become richer. Doctors, engineers, managers, some of them earned huge salaries, but they were still living paycheck to paycheck. And the rich dad explained why. It is not how much you earn. It is how much you keep. Because most people fall into a silent trap. When income increases, so does spending. Bigger house, new car, more expenses, more obligations. And suddenly, the raise disappears before it even becomes wealth. Link the chain. Most people don't notice. The rich dad drew a simple pattern. Most people live in a cycle. Work, earn, spend, repeat. And they believe this is life. But in reality, it is a loop that never ends. Because every time they earn more, their lifestyle adjusts upward, and they become trapped in what looks like success, but feels like pressure. Brain, the real difference between rich and poor thinking. The rich dad then introduced a concept that changed everything. There is a difference between working for money and making money work for you. At first, the boy didn't fully understand. So the rich dad gave an example. A poor person says, I need a higher salary. A rich person asks, how can I create an asset that generates income? Two completely different questions. Two completely different lives. One depends on effort. The other builds systems. House, assets versus liabilities, the hidden divider. Then came one of the most important lessons. The rich dad said, most people think they are building wealth, but they are actually building liabilities. He explained it simply. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. But most people confuse the two. They buy houses they cannot afford, cars they finance, things that look rich but cost money every month. And they call it success. But in reality, it reduces freedom. Warning, the dangerous belief. The poor dad believed, your house is your greatest asset. But the rich dad disagreed. He said, if your house takes money from you every month, it is not an asset. It is a liability. This statement shocked the boy, because it went against everything he had been taught. And that is when he realized something deeper. Most people do not learn about money. They inherit beliefs about money. Chart decreasing. Why most people stay stuck. The rich dad explained the core problem. People are not financially educated. They are academically trained. They learn how to get good grades, pass exams, follow instructions, but they never learn how money flows, how taxes work, how investments grow, how debt behaves. So they enter adulthood smart in theory, but blind in practice. And the system rewards this blindness. Counterclockwise arrows button, the salary trap. The boy started noticing a pattern in real life. People get a job. They feel relieved. They get a raise. They feel successful. They buy more things. They feel happy. But then something happens. Stress returns. Bills increase. Freedom stays the same. And they realize something painful. They are working harder, but not moving forward. The rich dad called this the salary trap. Compass, a new way of thinking begins. The boy started changing, not because he earned more money, but because he started asking different questions. Instead of asking, how much can I earn? He began asking, what can I build that earns for me? Instead of asking, is this job safe? He asked, is this making me free? And that shift was the beginning of financial intelligence. Fire, the wake-up moment. One evening, the rich dad said something unforgettable. The poor stay poor not because they don't have opportunities, but because they don't see them. The boy didn't respond, because for the first time, he started seeing the world differently, not as a place of jobs, but as a system of money flow. And then the rich dad gave him a challenge. Go and learn how money works, not how to earn it. The boy asked, how? The rich dad smiled and said, by learning what most people ignore completely. Backhand index pointing right. In part 3, we will go deeper into why schools don't teach financial intelligence, the truth about debt, good versus bad, why most people work their entire lives but never build wealth, and the first real step toward financial independence. Part 3. The education you were never given. The boy left that day with a strange feeling. It wasn't excitement. It wasn't confusion. It was awareness. A quiet realization that something important had been missing all along. Not money, not opportunity, but understanding. Because for the first time, he began to suspect something unsettling. What if the system was never designed to teach you how to be rich? School, the school that teaches everything except money. The rich dad asked him a simple question. What do schools teach you about money? The boy thought for a moment. Math, science, history, languages, but nothing about money. The rich dad nodded. That is the first lesson. Because you can go through 16 years of education and still not know how credit cards work, still not understand taxes, still not know how debt grows, still not know how wealth is created, and yet you are expected to survive in a world built entirely on money. Brain the difference between intelligence and financial intelligence. The rich dad said something powerful. Intelligence at school does not guarantee intelligence in life. Many smart people struggle financially, not because they are lazy, but because they were never taught financial intelligence. He broke it down into 4 skills: earning money, managing money, investing money, protecting money. Most people only learn the first one, and even that, they learn it from experience, not education. The debt that feels like freedom. Then came a lesson the boy never forgot. The rich dad asked, "What is debt?" The boy answered, "Borrowed money." The rich dad smiled. That is what most people think. But there are 2 types of debt. He explained, good debt puts money in your pocket. Bad debt takes money out of your pocket. But most people confuse the 2. They use debt to buy things that lose value. Cars, gadgets, clothes, lifestyle upgrades. And they call it progress. But in reality, they are buying obligations. The silent trade most people make. The rich dad leaned forward and said, every time you buy something you cannot afford, you are selling your future. The boy didn't fully understand at first, so he explained it differently. When you take unnecessary debt, you are not just borrowing money. You are borrowing your own time, future hours of work, future stress, future pressure, and slowly, without noticing, your life stops belonging to you. The middle class trap. The rich dad described something uncomfortable. The middle class often works harder than the rich, but never gets closer to freedom. Why? Because they do 3 things: earn money, spend money, pay debt, and repeat. They look successful from the outside, but internally, they are locked in a cycle because their income is already assigned before it arrives. Bar chart. Why wealth is not about income. The boy started noticing something important. Some people earn millions and stay stressed. Others earn modest income and build wealth over time. The difference is not income. The difference is structure. The rich dad said, rich people buy assets. Poor people buy expenses. And the middle class buys liabilities they think are assets. The foundation of wealth. Then came a turning point. The rich dad drew a simple idea. Wealth is not built by income. Wealth is built by systems. Systems that generate money without your constant presence. He said, if you must be present to earn money, you are not building wealth. You are building employment. And that sentence stayed in the boy's mind. Repeat button. The invisible loop that keeps people stuck. The rich dad explained the pattern most people never question. They work harder, earn more, spend more, stay in the same place. Because their expenses always rise with their income. So they never escape. They only upgrade their lifestyle prison. Compass. A new question emerges. That night, the boy asked himself something different. Not how do I earn more, but why am I not free even when I earn? And that question changed everything, because it shifted his focus from income to understanding. Fire. The moment of clarity. The rich dad told him, most people do not realize they are in a race they never chose. A race for salary, a race for approval, a race for status, but never a race for freedom. And that is why so few people escape it, because they never stop to ask, where am I actually running to? The rich dad then gave him a challenge. Stop thinking like someone who works for money and start thinking like someone who builds money. The boy asked, how do I do that? The rich dad replied, by learning what to build instead of what to earn. In part 4, we will explore what assets actually look like in real life, how the rich build income systems, why fear keeps people from investing, and the first real step toward financial independence. Part 4. The game of building wealth. The boy had begun to see something new. Not money, but the structure behind money. Because once you see the system, you can't unsee it. And that is when everything starts to change. Brick, the first real question about wealth. The rich dad asked him again, "What is an asset?" But this time, the boy didn't rush to answer. Because he knew the trap. Words were not enough anymore. So the rich dad answered for him. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket, whether you work or not. Then he paused. And most people think they own assets, but they actually own liabilities. House, the fake feeling of wealth. The rich dad continued. People buy houses and think they are getting richer. But if the house costs them every month, it is not wealth. It is responsibility. The boy started noticing something uncomfortable in the world around him. People celebrating purchases. New cars. Bigger homes. Expensive upgrades. But behind the celebration, there was pressure. Monthly payments. Debt. Stress. And something invisible. Less freedom. The invisible drain. The rich dad explained. Every liability looks like success at first, because it gives you a feeling, status, comfort, approval. But slowly, it takes something more important, your future options. Because every monthly payment removes choices from your life. And when your choices disappear, so does your freedom. Lightbulb, the rich don't work for money the same way. The boy asked, if assets are so powerful, why doesn't everyone build them? The rich dad smiled. Because most people are afraid. Afraid of losing money. Afraid of making mistakes. Afraid of starting. So they choose the safest path. A salary. But safety has a cost. And that cost is growth. Warning, the real cost of fear. The rich dad said something that stayed in the boy's mind. Fear makes people work all their lives for something they could build in a few years. Because fear does not stop action. It redirects it. Instead of investing, people save. Instead of building, people consume. Instead of learning, people repeat. And slowly, life becomes predictable, but not free. Bar chart, the wealth formula no one teaches. The rich dad finally simplified everything. Wealth is built when income from assets, expenses. But most people live like this. Income from job equals expenses. So they stay stuck. Because nothing is left to build with. No surplus. No system. No growth engine. Just survival. The shift from worker to builder. The boy started understanding a new identity. A worker thinks, I need to earn more. A builder thinks, I need to build something that earns. This shift changes everything. Because one depends on time. The other creates independence from time. Brain, why most people never start. The rich dad explained the deeper reason. It is not lack of opportunity. It is lack of education and courage. Because building assets requires patience, risk tolerance, long-term thinking. But most people are trained for immediate results, short-term rewards, safe decisions. So they never enter the game of wealth. They only watch it. Compass, the first real step. The rich dad gave the boy a challenge. Start small, but start thinking differently. Instead of asking what job pays more, ask what system creates income. That sentence marked a turning point. Because it wasn't about money anymore. It was about direction. Fire, the breaking point. The boy realized something powerful. Two people can start at the same place. Same age. Same education. Same opportunities. But end up in completely different lives. Not because of talent, but because of decisions made early. Direct hit, end of part 4. Hook for part 5. The rich dad leaned back and said, the rich don't work for money. They learn how to make money work for them. The boy asked, but how do I start? The rich dad smiled. By learning to see opportunities where others see risk. In part 5, we will go deeper into how the rich find opportunities, why financial intelligence beats hard work, the mindset shift from employee to investor, and the real beginning of financial freedom. Part 5, seeing what others cannot see. Something had changed in the boy, not his surroundings, but the way he looked at them. The world was the same, but the meaning behind it was not. And that is where wealth truly begins. Not in money, but in perception. The hidden layer of opportunity. The rich dad asked him a simple question. Do you think opportunities are rare? The boy hesitated. Sometimes, yes. The rich dad shook his head. No, opportunities are everywhere. He paused. But most people are not trained to see them. Because opportunity does not always look like success. Sometimes it looks like risk. Sometimes it looks like work. And sometimes it looks like something no one else wants. Chart decreasing why most people miss opportunities. The rich dad explained. When most people see something uncertain, they see danger. But when rich people see the same thing, they see potential. This difference is everything. Because both are looking at the same world, but interpreting it differently. And interpretation shapes action. Light bulb the story behind every lucky person. The boy once asked, "Why do some people seem lucky?" The rich dad smiled. There is no luck. There is preparation and awareness. Because when opportunity appears, most people are not ready. They don't have knowledge. They don't have courage. They don't have systems. So they ignore it. And later, when someone else succeeds, they call it luck. Brain the skill that changes everything. The rich dad said, the most important financial skill is not earning money. The boy leaned forward. It is seeing money. Not physically, but mentally. Seeing how money moves. Where it flows. Where it hides. Where it grows. Because once you understand movement, you can position yourself in it. Counterclockwise arrows button the difference between employees and investors. The rich dad drew a comparison. An employee asks, "How much do I get paid per hour?" An investor asks, "How much does my money make per hour?" One trades time. The other studies returns. One depends on effort. The other depends on systems. And that is where the gap begins. Warning: the trap of comfort. The rich dad said something powerful. Comfort is the enemy of growth. Because comfort makes people avoid risk. And avoiding risk means avoiding learning. So people stay in safe jobs, safe routines, safe thinking, safe decisions. But safety without growth is just slow stagnation. Bar chart: the real currency of wealth. The boy assumed money was the goal, but the rich dad corrected him. Money is not the goal. The boy was confused. Then what is? The rich dad answered. Control over your time. Because time is the only thing you cannot recover. And money is only valuable if it gives you more time, not less. The shift from working hard to thinking differently. The boy began noticing something strange. People around him worked extremely hard, but rarely questioned the system they were in. They focused on more hours, higher salaries, better positions, but never asked, is there another way to live? And that question alone separates two worlds. Fire the first step into financial awareness. The rich dad gave him a simple instruction. Don't chase money. Study it. Observe it. Follow it. Because money is not random. It moves according to behavior. And behavior can be learned. Chart decreasing why most people stay in the same place. The rich dad explained. Most people do not fail financially. They simply never change direction. They repeat the same cycle. Work, spend, wait, repeat. And hope that time alone will improve their situation. But time does not change patterns. Only awareness does. Brain the new way of thinking begins. The boy started to think differently. Instead of asking, what should I do to earn more? He asked, what should I understand to be free? And that question opened a new door. Because it shifted him from action to understanding. The rich dad looked at him and said, the rich do not work harder than everyone else. They think differently than everyone else. The boy asked, how do I learn to think like that? The rich dad replied, by learning how money really behaves. Backhand index pointing right. In part 6, we will explore how money actually flows in real life, why some people get richer during crises, the psychology of financial decisions, and the beginning of true financial independence thinking. Part 6, how money actually moves in the real world. The boy was no longer thinking the same way. Something inside him had shifted, not dramatically, but permanently. Because once you start questioning how money works, you never look at life the same way again. Moneybag money is not static. The rich dad began with a simple truth. Money does not stay still. The boy listened closely. It moves. It flows from person to person, system to system, decision to decision. And most people never track it. They only react to it. They earn it, spend it, lose it, and hope for more. But they never study its movement. Chart decreasing why money leaves most people. The rich dad asked, why does money leave most people so quickly? The boy thought, because they spend too much? The rich dad nodded slightly. But that is only the surface. He continued, money leaves people who do not know where it should go. Because without direction, money follows emotion. And emotion is often impulsive. Brain the emotional decisions that destroy wealth. The rich dad explained something critical. Most financial decisions are not logical. They are emotional. People buy because they feel stress, pressure, excitement, fear, envy, and emotions are unstable guides. So money moves based on feelings, not strategy, and that is why it disappears. The flow of the rich versus the flow of the poor. The rich dad drew two patterns. The poor, money expenses, debt repetition. The rich, money assets, income reinvestment. The difference is not income. It is direction. One consumes the flow. The other redirects it. Bar chart. Why crises create two different outcomes. The boy asked, why do some people become richer during crises? The rich dad smiled. Because crises do not create or destroy money. They redistribute it. He paused. And most people panic during redistribution. When fear rises, people sell assets cheaply. People stop investing. People freeze financially. But others observe and act when others cannot. The advantage of calm thinking. The rich dad said, in moments of fear, money moves quickly. But only those who stay calm can follow it. Because panic creates mistakes. And mistakes create opportunity. Not for everyone, but for those prepared. Compass the real skill behind wealth. The boy asked, so what is the real skill? The rich dad answered, control over your thinking under pressure. Because wealth is not built in comfort. It is built in decisions made under uncertainty. And most people avoid uncertainty completely. Brain the invisible education gap. The rich dad continued, two people can live in the same world, but experience completely different realities. Because one understands money flow, and the other only understands work. So they interpret events differently. One sees crisis opportunity. One sees crisis danger. And interpretation becomes destiny. Lightbulb, the first principle of financial awareness. The rich dad summarized. Follow the money, not the emotion. Because emotion distorts reality. But money movement reveals truth. And truth is what builds wealth. Counterclockwise arrows button, the pattern most people never break. The boy noticed something deeper. Most people never break their financial pattern. Not because they cannot, but because they never question it. They repeat, work, spend, wait, hope, and call it life. But it is only habit. A new level of thinking. The boy began asking different questions. Instead of, how do I earn more? He asked, where is money flowing right now? Instead of, what is safe? He asked, what is moving? And that shift was the beginning of awareness. The rich dad looked at him and said, money does not reward effort. It rewards understanding. The boy asked, so how do I understand it completely? The rich dad replied, by learning how to think like an investor, not a worker. Backhand index pointing right. In part 7, we will explore the psychology of investors versus employees. Why fear keeps people from building wealth. How the rich evaluate risk differently. And the final mindset shift toward financial independence. Part 7. The psychology of risk and wealth. The boy was beginning to notice something deeper than money. He was noticing himself, his thoughts, his reactions, his instincts. Because the real battle was never outside. It was inside. Balance scale. Why two people see the same risk differently. The rich dad asked, what is risk? The boy paused. Losing money? The rich dad nodded. That is what most people think. But that is not risk. That is outcome. He leaned forward. Risk is not knowing what you are doing. That sentence changed everything. Brain the real source of financial fear. The rich dad continued. People are not afraid of losing money. They are afraid of not understanding money. Because uncertainty creates fear. And fear creates avoidance. So most people avoid investing, avoid building, avoid trying. Not because opportunities are dangerous, but because they feel unprepared. Chart decreasing the illusion of safe choices. The boy asked, if people avoid risk, doesn't that make them safer? The rich dad smiled. No. Most people think safety is staying in one place. But inflation moves. Markets move. Life moves. And standing still in a moving world is not safety. It is slow decline. The investor's mind versus the employee's mind. The rich dad explained. An employee asks, will I get paid? An investor asks, what is the return? One focuses on certainty. The other focuses on outcome. One avoids loss. The other studies gain. And that difference shapes their entire financial future. Repeat button. Why fear becomes a habit. The rich dad said something important. Fear repeats itself. Because every time someone avoids risk, they reinforce avoidance. And every time they avoid learning, they reinforce ignorance. So over time, fear becomes identity. And identity becomes lifestyle. Bar chart: the hidden cost of playing safe. The boy began to understand something uncomfortable. Playing safe does not stop loss. It only changes the type of loss. Instead of losing money quickly, people lose time slowly. Decades pass. Opportunities pass. Growth passes. And nothing changes. Compass: the first real investor question. The rich dad gave him a new question. Not, is this safe? But, what do I understand about this? Because understanding reduces risk, not avoidance. Brain: why knowledge reduces fear. The rich dad explained. When you do not understand something, it feels dangerous. But when you understand it deeply, it becomes manageable. This is why experts take calculated risks, while beginners avoid everything. Not because experts are fearless, but because they are informed. The turning point in thinking. The boy realized something powerful. He had been trained to avoid mistakes, but not trained to understand them. And that meant he was avoiding learning itself. Chart: decreasing the silent reason most people never build wealth. The rich dad said, most people never become wealthy because they never stay in uncertainty long enough to learn from it. They quit too early. They switch too fast. They avoid discomfort. And without discomfort, there is no growth. Compass: the shift into investor thinking. The boy started changing his internal questions. Instead of, what if I lose? He asked, what if I learn? Instead of, what is safe? He asked, what is understandable? And that shift slowly reprogrammed his mindset. Light bulb: the real definition of financial intelligence. The rich dad finally summarized. Financial intelligence is not about avoiding risk. It is about managing it. Because risk exists in everything. Jobs, businesses, savings, investments. The difference is not risk versus no risk. It is understood risk versus unknown risk. The rich dad looked at him and said, the rich do not avoid risk. They understand it better than others. The boy asked, how do I reach that level of understanding? The rich dad replied, by learning how to build assets, not just study money. Backhand index pointing right. In part 8, final part, we will cover the real meaning of financial freedom, how assets create independence, why most people never escape the system, and the complete mindset shift into wealth creation. Part 8, final part, financial freedom and the final shift. The boy had reached a point of no return, not because he had become rich, but because he could no longer unsee what he had learned. The world still looked the same on the surface, but underneath, everything had changed. Compass: the question that defines everything. The rich dad asked him one final question. What is financial freedom? The boy hesitated. He had heard many definitions before. Having a good job, owning a house, saving money, retiring at 60. But something told him those were not the real answer. The rich dad nodded slowly. Most people confuse comfort with freedom. Light bulb: the real meaning of freedom. He explained, financial freedom is not having a job that pays you enough. It is having assets that pay you without you. The boy listened carefully, because this was different. Very different. Bar chart: the simple formula of freedom. The rich dad drew a simple idea. Freedom happens when income from assets, expenses. That's it. No complexity, no mystery, just balance. But most people never reach it, because they never build assets. Why most people never become free? The rich dad said, people are trained to earn money, not to build systems. So they focus on getting promoted, increasing salary, working harder, but not on building investments, creating businesses, owning income streams. And without systems, income stops when they stop. Repeat button: the infinite work cycle. He continued, as long as you trade time for money, you remain in the cycle. Because time is limited, and salary depends on time. So there is always a ceiling, no matter how hard you work. Brain: the mental barrier to wealth. The boy asked, why don't more people change? The rich dad replied, because change feels risky. Even when staying the same is more dangerous. People prefer familiar struggle over unfamiliar growth. Chart: decreasing the invisible price of delay. The rich dad said something powerful. The biggest financial mistake is not losing money. It is losing time. Because time compounds. So does missed opportunity. And every year of delay makes freedom harder to reach. Lightbulb, the first step into independence. The rich dad gave him simple advice. Start small, but start building. Not spending, not consuming, but building. Even tiny assets. A small investment. A side income. A system that earns without presence. Because wealth is not built in leaps. It is built in repetition. The identity shift. The boy began to change internally. He was no longer asking, how do I get a better job? He was asking, how do I build something that frees my time? This shift was everything. Because identity drives behavior. And behavior builds results. Fire, the final lesson. The rich dad leaned forward and said, the difference between rich and poor is simple. The poor work for money. The rich make money work for them. He paused. But the middle class does both and never becomes free. The final realization. The boy finally understood. It was never about money itself. It was about control. Control over time, decisions, direction. And that control comes only from assets, not effort alone. The ending of one mindset and the beginning of another. That day, nothing external changed. But internally, everything had shifted. The boy was no longer thinking like someone who earns money. He was thinking like someone who builds freedom. Final conclusion. And the rich dad said one last thing. If you understand money, you are free. If you don't, you will spend your life working for those who do. End of audiobook. This is not just a story. It is a mindset shift. From employee thinking to investor thinking. From working for money to building systems that work for you.